So there's a big controversy right now with Nick Cannon. Now, Nick Cannon, he has a podcast and also he do a video version actually on YouTube called Cannon's Class. And he invite a lot of, people to come in. And as of late, he's been inviting a lot of people to talk about, just the current climate we have in America, dealing with racism. We have a lot of social justice things going on right now. We have a global protest right now. And highlighting, the way police treat, black people and focusing on anti-black racism and, systemic racism. So Nick been inviting people like Dr. Joy DeGruy. I know he had Tariq Nasheed on there. I know he had also, in which one we're going to talk about, Professor Griff. Now, Professor Griff, so I have interviewed Professor Griff before on our news channel. And, he was in Public Enemy. And in 1989, he was kicked out of the group due to an interview that he done in the Washington Post back in that time period, 1989. And he had made some comments about Jewish people, and they ended up getting him kicked out the group. So fast forward to 2020, Nick Cannon is doing an interview with Professor Griff. And around 48 minutes or so around there is when Nick Cannon, talks about, a few things that I feel that he didn't. Part of it, he was going a certain place, but then he went somewhere he shouldn't have went with that at all. But let's talk about that. So, Nick Cannon, tried to articulate, the history of racism, white supremacy in this country. Now, the first part, when he talked about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, I mean, anyone who knows Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she knows she's definitely one of our ancestors. She was definitely, dedicated a lot of her life and time to break down the mindset and analyze and debate and everything that we need to know about the system of racism and white supremacy. She did that. And, one of her most famous books, The ISIS Papers. And Nick Cannon was trying to talk about the history of racism in relation to we had in this country, the anti-miscegenation laws, right? Basically, you better not date or marry a white person. And, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talked about why, black men were hung and beaten and killed for even looking at a white woman. And she said that that mindset that led to all of that violence, like Black Wall Street, that was, sparked off behind accusing a black man touching a white woman. So based off of all that history of violence and things that we can go verify easily, is right on Google to verify all of this. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talked about the genetic annihilation, theory that says that, okay, if we allow black people, especially black men in particular, to just have, relations and have children, then the white supremacists felt that we would be genetically, removed because the children that come out of those unions do not look like them. They look more black. So that's what was a lot of the fuel of, the violence and different things that would happen to black men, especially being around white women. Even in 2020, you better not be dating a white woman in certain places, even in America, or something could happen to you. I mean, I can talk about the story of Albert Wright in Jasper, Texas. That's one of them. It's many stories throughout history. So Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, which he was quoting, was basically relating to all of that. Now, after that, he was trying to talk about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. He was trying to go into basically some of the mindsets and also the continued violence of, white supremacy. And we know this is part of American history, and we still got things going on like that. It morphed into the policing, with the George Floyd, and, we all watched that horrible video. Then Nick went into talking about melanin itself, okay, and saying that basically we have melanin and, they don't have melanin. That's what he went into. And he was relating melanin to, character, melanin to the way people act. And he tried to go into, because, they didn't have melanin, then he was equating that to certain things that happened, violence, slavery, X, Y, Z, right? And then down the line, he started to go even more further in some comments that I wouldn't went down that route at all. And if you're going to go down some of the route that he went, you better make sure you cite your sources and make sure you could point to that and say, hey, listen, I'm quoting this scholar, I'm quoting this, I'm quoting that, because it's going to be put back on you. And then he ended up making a classic, beginner's mistake, because Nick Cannon in this space talking about that is a beginner. He didn't say the words white supremacy, because that's where he was originally coming from with that. He ended up, relating it to the people as a whole. And that's what really got him. And then when he mentioned, the Jewish community as part of that, that's what really got him. So then he started being called the word anti-Semite with that. So the video just blew up. Now, after the short clip that people kept playing, the 2-minute clip, I listened to the rest of it. And yeah, he was trying to go back around to the system of white supremacy, but the part he said was just kind of out there. Now, this interview was posted 2 weeks ago. It wasn't posted today. And it just went, viral. People that's politically on the right, they just went to saying, hey, what about this, and why he could say it, and then we say this, this happens to us, and why isn't he canceled, et cetera, et cetera. So what ended up happening due to that, Nick Cannon was dropped from Viacom, and, which, he had to show MTV Wildin' Out. So that was dropped immediately after that happened. A lot of people was like, they were celebrating it. Some people didn't like it at all. Some people were saying that, hey, Nick Cannon speaking his truth, and they drop him and we're going to get, back to, really speaking his truth. But he ended up leaving a message after all of this happened. We want to read that in its entirety. So he says, anyone who knows me knows that I have no hate in my heart nor malice intentions. I do not condone hate speech nor the spread of hateful rhetoric. He said, we live in a time when it's more important than ever to promote unity and understanding. Now, I seen Wildin' Out. He had a lot of white people working for him, so I don't think he hate nobody. I believe that. He says the black and Jewish communities have both faced enormous hatred, oppression, persecution, and prejudice for thousands of years, and in many ways have and will continue to work together to overcome these obstacles. He said when you look at the media, he said in other sectors of the nation's history, African Americans and the people of Jewish community have partnered to create some of the best, most revolutionary work we know today. So I'm an advocate for people's voices to be heard openly, fairly, and candidly. And in today's conversation about anti-racism and social justice, he says, I think we all, including myself, must continue educating one another. He said, and embracing uncomfortable conversations is the only way we all get better. He said, I encourage more healthy dialogue and welcome any experts, clergy, he said, our spokespersons to any of my platforms to hold me accountable and correct me. He said, in any statement I've made that has been projected as negatives until then, I hold myself accountable for this moment and take full responsibility because my intentions are only to show that as a beautiful human species, we have way more commonalities than differences. So let's embrace those as well as each other. He said, we are all family. Now, he gave more statements to another media publication called fastcompany.com. He said that there's no malice or negative intent, but in the time like 2020, you have to have these conversations. And if there's an assumption is perceived as ignorant, let's debunk it right away, which I agree. I mean, you put a statement out there. If it's wrong, there's no facts to it. Let's have a, adult conversation, a civil conversation, not a name calling, etc. And let's debunk it. I agree with that. Now, he says after all of this, a few rabbis contacted him. And he says that he's been speaking with them and he plans to have them on his podcast. He said, my podcast, specifically an academic podcast, to have tough and difficult conversations based off of text. And if we read something and something's not accurate, let's do away with it. He said, I can't wait to sit down. He said, with some people that can help educate me and help further this conversation, I want to be corrected. That's what he said. So he's saying that he want to be corrected, of any view that he has that isn't right. So it sounds like he's open to teaching, at least. But Nick Cannon has to understand something, is especially, due to who he is and the position he's now in. His words definitely going to carry a lot further than others, definitely a lot further than mine. And when he said that, let me be careful with my words, and you really need to think before you speak on some things, right? That topic of racism and white supremacy is one of the most touchy subjects ever. I mean, America and that topic itself, it just permeates America, because that topic just don't go away. That topic is in every area of America, is that particular topic. And now people are dealing with that head on, and a lot of people don't like it. Some people want it to go back to what it was and just don't talk about it. It just, it is what it is. Hey, it's just, that sort of thing. Well, it's just the way it is, so we just got to kind of deal with it. Some people want that, and people don't like all this, stirring it up and having open conversations and confronting. Then you have people who don't like that being confronted. Now, Nick Cannon, they want him canceled, which is not really going to happen, because Nick Cannon is not in a position where you can touch him too much. I mean, sure, you could take away Wild 'N Out, but Nick Cannon has this money. I mean, he can take his whole show if he wants to, create another, don't have to call it Wild 'N Out, but go and create that same show. He can create it right here in America, or he can go to the continent of Africa and recreate it there if he wanted to. And they're not going to say, oh, we're not going to play that show. No, they'll gladly have him over there if that's what he wanted to do. If he wanted to take his crew over there that he has and continue to do the show and bring people in, I mean, hey, he can do that. Some African nations are opened up now. You can actually fly there. So Nick Cannon has options, but the thing is certain things that you can and cannot say in the media space, right? It's only one man that I know, in our community at least, that can say whatever he feels that he needs to say, and he has the power to do it, and he has the backing to do it. The rest of us don't have that. Definitely not me. I don't have it. So I know certain subject matters. I'm going to be careful on how I say it, how I approach it. Sure, people going to gas you up and say, hey, say this and say that. Say, you know what? You say it then. You go ahead and do it. But when you are, doing this, you better, it's like the 40 laws of power. You pick and choose your battles, and only take battles you're going to win. You don't take battles you're not going to win. You understand? So, Nick now is saying he's open, and which is good, have the rabbis on and y'all had that conversation, and y'all see, where you at with that. And I think that's a good thing. In media, you should talk to everybody, as long as it's educational and we're not fighting and backbiting and something stupid. I can't stand watching an interview with somebody fighting somebody if it doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're going to do it, at least have some sort of educational value to it, right? But, Nick, like I said, he definitely got an experience with this. I know. I think he should, get with a lot of brothers and sisters in the community, even some of the people that he's brought on, and talk to them about everything that happened, and get them to, kind of educate him a little bit on talking about that subject, because that subject can flip on you in a minute if you say the wrong thing. It's just that, like I said, some things that he would say, you never heard me say, because I won't say it, because I understand that some things that he was articulating, but then he went to a route, like, for instance, I'm gonna have to say this: having melanin or not having melanin. Listen, we all have melanin, just some of us have more melanin than others. I mean, we just talking about science there. And to say who's good and who's evil, only God can say that, right? But we know actions definitely can show. Now, in my years of living, I've seen people, no matter what scale of the spectrum of melanin they on, I've seen good, I've seen evil, I've seen sin, I've seen righteousness. I've seen it, okay? Of course, we're focusing on, racism and white supremacy. But if you go to China, for instance, and the Chinese Communist Party is running that, and they be making doctors disappear, that's speaking the truth, or whoever else, right? then I'm pretty sure they're going to say they the ones doing the evil thing. You know, in this media space, we really have to definitely analyze what we're going to say. Make sure when we are articulating a topic or a subject matter that it's tight and on point, especially us as, you know, African Americans. We definitely got to make sure, because, you know, on a good day, you already know our position, you know, in the U.S. But when it comes to Nick Cannon, based off of what I read, I mean, he get it. He get it. He say he gonna talk with people. He say he gonna have them on the show. I think he should do that. And, you know, everything gonna go on. Like I told people, it's way more important things that we can be focusing on for sure. Even things in the level of entertainment that we can be focused on. Like, for instance, California shut down again. So that means there's no Hollywood. So this music industry is not really going to do anything. So that's a whole lot of things you can start talking about with more shutdowns out here. And even people in California can't get a haircut right now because they say they didn't shut down the hair salon and shut down the nail salon again. So now people going to be looking rough in California again because they just not shut that thing back down. So there's going to be many celebrities that's going to be like last time. They were just losing it, not be able to get a haircut, get the nails done. I mean, people looking kind of rough. So, you know, that may go back to that again. But, you know, leave me a comment, know things about the situation, you know, with Nick Cannon. No, he's not going to be canceled. That's not going to happen. I mean, he's got a little bit too much money for that. Do I see him being put on TV anytime soon? No, I don't see it. But, you know, we live in a time period, you should own your own things anyway. That way no one could take you from something. Nick should have figured out a way to have his own show. But now he's been removed from Viacom. He has the freedom to do that. He can create. You don't mean he has to stop doing his shows. Just create it underneath your own name, your own brand. He has his own company. Incredible. He can do that.